Plus, the CEO of the nation's largest auto retailer, Mike Jackson, our guest host for the remainder of the show as the second hour of Squawk Box begins right now.
Nobody on the road, nobody on the beach. I feel it in the air, the summer's out of reach.
Good morning and welcome back to Squawk Box here on CNBC. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Joe Kernan and Michelle Caruso Cabrera in studio for the remainder of the broadcast. Mike Jackson, the CEO of AutoNation. We're going to check in with him in just a moment. But stocks are off to their worst September.
All right, our guest host today heads the nation's largest auto retailer. Mike Jackson is chairman and CEO of AutoNation. AutoNation is one of the biggest is it in South Florida?
Our headquarters in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
South
the
Florida.
biggest company in Florida?
No, Publix is the biggest on employee revenue basis, but we're right up there.
Right up there in South Florida. All right. Your stock has recently traded at all-time highs, so we may have a tough jobs picture. But for whatever reason, your business has been pretty good, but it could always be better, right?
Well, there's a little optimism and confidence allowed on this set on a Tuesday morning in September.
Bring it on.
First, let's announce our sales results for August. We retailed 18,000 units, just over 18,000 units in the month of August. That's down 3% from prior year. The decline was driven by sales shortages with Honda and Toyota. Honda was down 30%, Toyota was down 20%. Nissan, which is back in business with inventory, our sales are up 10%. The domestics had another good month, particularly General Motors and Chrysler, up 7%. And I can basically tell you that the automotive recovery after a 6-month detour with the earthquake in Japan and all the production disruptions around the world is about to resume sometime in October.
So hold on, but Toyota and Honda, it was an inventory problem?
Oh, absolutely.
That's why the numbers were down.
Our inventories with the big three Japanese are half of what they were at the beginning of the year. August is the low. We started the year with 20,000 cars in stock for the Japanese. Today we're down to 10.
Are you saying that you would not have been down 3% if you had enough inventory? Would you have been flat? Would you have been up?
We would have been up. We would have been up. Think about it this way, Michelle. The industry selling rate was 13 million at the beginning of the year, and the economy was terrible at the beginning of the year. With the production disruption with the Japanese, the selling rate declined to 12 million, where it'll be for 6 months. When the inventory and the production comes back in, which is happening right now, the fourth quarter will move back to 13 million. And imagine all the manufacturers have cut back on marketing communications, incentives. Everybody's raised prices. Transaction prices are very high. So we're going to get back to normal marketing sometime in October.
People wait for cars they can't
that's what I was going to ask. Are people waiting for cars?
I mean, but why, if they need a new car and they couldn't get a Honda or a Toyota, you're telling me they said, I'll wait?
Yeah, they say they'll wait.
So you really
they're waiting for.
Everybody else was talking about this slowdown that we saw and all the uncertainty, the debt ceiling. None of your minus 3% is because of the economy. It's just because of two automakers in Japan.
It was 3.
You swear?
And I swear, Joe.
Well, no, he has Nissan,
I swear.
Too.
I know.
No, he said Nissan's back.
We have everything.
Right.
And by the way, the production of every manufacturer was affected. It's not like others could increase production to take advantage of the situation. And by the way, production did not match customers' tastes and needs. There were many components missing for every manufacturer. So here you have a huge part of the economy that's been totally screwed up for 6 months that is just now beginning to get sorted out. And the driver, Andrew, of the optimism or the confidence is the replacement need. So we have undersold the scrappage rate now for 4 years in a row. There is pent-up demand of over 10 million units, and there's a pent-up demand from 6 months from the production disruption. So it doesn't take a lot of confidence or optimism to say sales are going to improve. Well, when you increase inventory and it matches what consumers want and you change pricing and incentives, sales will improve.
Okay, but here's the question. I think it goes to where Joe was going with this about the Japanese makers. Do people say, I'm going to literally wait because I want to get these models which I can't get? Or is it a function of the fact that marketing is down, prices are up, all of those things that prevent people from saying, you know what, I'm going to wait because actually I think I'm going to be able to get the vehicle I want and it's going to be cheaper and there's going to be a marketing push behind it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, correct, Andrew.
He gave you an or, which is...
That's basically the situation. Listen, the recovery is fragile. And when there's a disruption, it's going to throw it off track. So the media has been telling the marketplace for 6 months it's the wrong time to buy a car. You're not going to get the selection you want. You're not going to get the price you want. We have thousands of customers who told us, we'll be back in the fall. And it's the sort of thing you can postpone a few months. But the fundamental recovery is underway, driven by replacement need. And, we're forecasting 12.5 million units this year. Right. And the only good thing about that 12.5 million units is better than the horrific 11.5 last year and a catastrophic 10.5 the year before that. So the absolute number is still very slow. But it is important that a major part of the U.S. economy is underway in a recovery.
And what if we go into a recession? What happens to that number?
Oh, it won't be helpful. None of these other things are helpful at all.
But you don't think we're going into a recession?
I don't think we're looking at a double dip.
What would you like to hear for how to create jobs on Thursday?
Well, first, it's, like 2 years late. I'm glad we finally got around to jobs after 2 years. And a lot of time has been lost. And so it doesn't matter near as much today as
nasty things here.
It doesn't matter as much what he says now than what he could have said 2 years ago.
The White House has not provided leadership during this recession. When deficits exploded, they needed to put forward a plan for fiscal responsibility. Instead, we got health care reform, Dodd-Frank, no budget.
Yeah,
the excellent work of Simpson Bowles ignored. So we got all these things. So you think
I said all those things. I have.
Right. And then you also said, which is such an outlier for the mainstream media, a huge pivotal victory was for the fiscal responsibility led by the Tea Party, led by the House
Republicans.
So that was I'm hearing, and I just heard it. It was horrible on Friday from both Leisman and my friend Andrew here. But that a lot of the problems right now, you hang right on the Tea Party, and Santelli goes off because he says, wait a minute, the build up to 14 trillion wasn't the problem. It was reckoning with that problem was what caused this mess that we're in right now.
Joe,
was it the intransigence of the Tea Party that caused S&P downgrade and the stock market sell off?
The American economy had a massive, near fatal heart attack in the fall of 2008. And only massive intervention prevented a total death. And patients sitting there in intensive care.
And
intensive care. And you say, I'm going to tell you you're in intensive care, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you I'm going to do elective surgery, health care. You didn't have to do it. By the way, you've been a bad boy, so I'm going to give you electric shock therapy, Dodd-Frank. And by the way, here's a shot of adrenaline called stimulus, and everything's going to be okay. Let's go on with life. And that was a crucial mistake in leadership and not understanding the depth of the economic problems, and that a singular focus was needed on the economy to make it better. And what corporations is looking at is the next financial crisis is over the horizon, namely the fiscal irresponsibility. And if you don't clear that overhang, then it holds back investment and confidence. And here the president has missed every chance to deal with it responsibly. There's no budget process. It's unprecedented to be running the economy, the federal government, on a continuing resolution for years.
Right.
He bought a year by doing Simpson Bowles. They did an outstanding job. The next day, he submits the budget to Congress. They totally ignores it and doesn't get a single vote. It goes down in the Senate, 97-0. And then he says, by the way, I want to raise the debt ceiling on a clean sheet of paper, meaning I never want to deal with fiscal responsibility. And therefore, he was dragged kicking and screaming to the table, and only a nasty fight could get the issue addressed. So at least we have now a frame and a mechanism for fiscal responsibility.
Let me ask you, as someone you live in Florida, you deal with consumers. Do you want the president to somehow try to deal with the mortgage mess still? In some way to help homeowners get cash in their pockets to give to you to buy cars? Or
the missing part of this whole economic recovery is housing. Housing remains a disaster. It started to get on the right track when the foreclosure process was shut down again. And the banks are not willing to lend on new mortgages until they clear the overhang of all the bad mortgages they have. And now it takes, in Florida, 2 to 3 years to get someone out of a home. These homes should be foreclosed. It's painful, sold to investors, put into the rental market. And if you clear that, then housing can move forward again. And those are millions of construction jobs that are waiting. So anything that delays the pain of clearing the housing
so you don't want to leave people in their homes or allow people to
Andrew, I ask you,
on things that are
it sounds
underwater.
good, but is it right for people to live in homes for 2 or 3 years and pay nothing? They pay nothing. They stop making all payments and just say, you know, I'm going to wait there until I'm finally.
You should have a lot more money for a car if they're not paying the mortgage.
You know, if you don't pay your car payment, you know, they come and get it in 60 to 90 days. You don't pay your rent; it's dealt with in 60 to 90 days. But if you were lucky enough to get into a house and you don't pay anything for 3 years, you can live there. It's not right. It's not fair, and it's holding back the economic recovery. So no, I don't support it.
A year and a half ago, Andrew, right in the middle of healthcare, we went to D.C. for Jobs Fair Day, and Valerie Jarrett was a guest. And you know, at the time we said Jobs Fair Day. It's like a little 2-day thing where you have people come in and we talk about this is what I think that if the administration had read Rogoff's book early enough to see this is a major problem we have with unemployment and with a debt overhang and a credit overhang, so that you're not going to get the snapback that always comes after a normal recession. Because they decided we're going to do the holy grail of the Democratic Party, and that is health care. We're going to get this done with our political capital right now, and jobs will come back on their own. And that was a huge miscalculation.
Huge mistake.
And in fact, it might end up that Obamacare doesn't stand the test of time. Who knows whether it's the courts or whether
all
it
very
ushers
possible.
in. And so that was all for naught, and we're still at 9%. And we're still at 9%.
So if he had
Look at me
focused,
like I disagree with you. I'm not suggesting I do.
If he had singularly focused on the economy and fixing the economy and recreating jobs,
but there were bigger.
he would have been reelected, and you could have done a better health care.
Wealth redistribution goals.
Joe, I will tell you, we
For
can
the
go
good of
rewind the
society.
tape and find it. There was a time in the summer of 2010, I want to say, where we thought things were actually better, and I think that you probably thought things were better too. So, anyway, we got to run.
I'm not sure about him focusing on jobs because I don't know that he's got any of the right prescriptions anyways. All right.
Oh, boy.
Comment.